With Borderlands 4 being officially announced, I thought it would be a good time to go over things that the game needs to have at launch. So here are 5 things that I think Borderlands 4 needs at launch in order to be successful. And starting off the list at number 5 is reduced world drops. Borderlands 3, legendaries are way too common in that game. It's really not hard to have a character with full legendaries in every slot pretty early on in the game. And in that way, it can kind of make the game easier. I'm not saying they should be as low as Borderlands 2. I feel like they should be less common in Borderlands 3, but a little bit more common than Borderlands 2. In Borderlands 3, you can do just about anything and legendaries just drop. Oh, you went to fight this enemy? Oh well, here's like 5 legendaries for you. After a while, Borderlands 3, like the legendaries didn't feel like as cool to get anymore. That's a big problem that Borderlands 3 had, is that the legendaries kept dropping. I get it, at first we all like to see all those orange beams come up from the ground and all those cool guns and all that, but after a while, after just seeing like every time like trying to farm legendaries like 5, 6 or like sometimes even 10 plus legendaries just drop, like it doesn't feel as satisfying anymore. Coming in at number 4 is a better story. It's kind of well known that Borderlands 3 has a terrible story. A lot of people, including myself, think that the game's story is complete trash. Like, I love Borderlands 3, but that story is abysmal. And it's kind of sad how Borderlands has gotten to a point where people just think of it as that one game with the lame jokes, which, yeah, Borderlands has always had kind of cringe jokes, but at the same time, like, you have Borderlands 2, which has a pretty good story with Handsome Jack and all of them, and it was still funny, while Borderlands 3 it prioritized more jokes, and just the story and writing of that game is just not good at all. The new villains are cringe. I will say the new lore they added with the sirens, that was interesting, and some of the additional characters they added were pretty cool, but there were just too many things in that game's story which was borderline offensive as a fan of these games. And if Borderlands 4 doesn't have at least a story on par with Borderlands 2, it doesn't have to be better than Borderlands 2, but at least on par with it, the fan base is just not gonna care anymore. Yeah, a lot of people, after their first playthrough, they kind of just zoom through the game, getting all the loot, try to beat the game to get to the end game. But for me, it's kind of hard to go back to Borderlands 3 because, yeah, when I'm going through the game, it's hard to go through certain segments because the story and what's going on is just so bad and it drags on. It makes it harder for me to go through the game. Coming in at number 3 is dedicated drops. Wonderlands and Borderlands 3 did suffer from this at launch. Borderlands 3, it wasn't as bad, but Wonderlands was pretty rough, and it was what ended up killing the game. For me, I love booting up the game so I can farm a certain gun from a certain like named enemy. Keep farming them until I get that one gun that I really wanted. Now, if you don't know what a dedicated drop is for example, Savage Lee in Borderlands 2. Savage Lee, he's a named enemy that spawns in Three Horns Divide, and he has a chance to drop the Unkempt Herald. That's one thing that Borderlands is really good at, is having named enemies and having each named enemy have a specific legendary that they can drop. If Borderlands 4 doesn't launch with dedicated drops, it can make farming for guns more tedious and annoying. It can go back to like Borderlands 1 or even the pre-sequel. I know the pre-sequel has some dedicated drops, but for most legendaries you kind of just have to get lucky. If Borderlands 4 doesn't have that, it will make farming for those legendaries really annoying, and it will go back to how Borderlands 3 launched. When that game launched, you would just have to farm Gravoid and hope to God you would get a world drop. Now luckily they did get better with the dedicated drops and give each named character like a legendary to drop, but this could really hurt the game if it doesn't have dedicated drops at launch. Coming in at number 2 is a raid boss. The fact that Borderlands 3 did not launch with a raid boss is insane. Raid bosses has been a thing for Borderlands since the first game. Everybody loves raid bosses in these games. Everyone likes to go drop in, try to take down this boss by themselves or even with a full crew, testing out the builds, like trying out new guns and on them and seeing if they can take this boss down that has new mechanics, has a lot of health, and can drop cool legendaries. In the fact that Borderlands 3 didn't have that, it made a lot of people like drop the game, because yeah, you have these cool legendaries, but what are you gonna use them on? Yeah, you have the slaughter maps and all that, but you can only do that a certain amount of times, and it's just normal enemies. Eventually they did add a raid boss in Borderlands 3. At that point, a lot of people already dropped the game. Raid bosses are just a thing that everybody loves to do in Borderlands, so if they launch another game without a raid boss, it's gonna be really weird. And coming in at number 1 is a higher rarity than legendary. Yes, we all love legendaries to drop, but we also like pearlescence. And the fact that Borderlands 3 did not have any tier above legendary is insane. It was stated that they didn't have a higher tier because older gen consoles couldn't support it or something like that, which is very disappointing, because with how crazy and cool some of the guns in Borderlands 3 are, I couldn't imagine if they brought pearlescence back in Borderlands 3, how crazy those would have been, and how OP they would have been. Fans of this series, we love to do that farm for like pearlescence, because yes, they are stupid rare, but as soon as that pearlescent drops, we stop what we're doing and we book it to that damn pearlescent. In Borderlands 1, they were some of the best guns in the entire game. Borderlands 2, with how poor the balancing was in that game, a lot of the pearlescents weren't that good, but it was still cool to get them because you barely ever would get them, and you would have to go out of your way and get really lucky to get a pearlescent. With Borderlands 4, I'm assuming being this gen and not supporting old gen, they can really do a lot of things with a new rarity, like bring back pearlescence and make the guns even crazier, like bring back seraph weapons, like make them cool. Borderlands 2, some of them, okay, most of them weren't that great, but some of them were really cool. A rarity I've been wanting them to bring back for the longest time, glitch rarity. That was honestly one of the best things about the pre-sequel in that DLC. I love glitch rarity weapons. Like bring back the effervescent rarity from the Commander Lilith DLC, or hell, make a new rarity. There's so many possibilities with what they could do with a higher rarity in Borderlands 4. Like they can make even crazier guns than legendaries. They won't be as many legendaries. Yes, we all love legendaries, but a lot of people do think that Borderlands 3 has too many legendaries, mainly because there isn't a tier higher than legendary. Like you won't get fatigued from seeing a legendary drop so many times, and if you see a pearlescent drop, a seraph, or glitch, or a new rarity drop, it will be more exciting to get loot. I was also gonna mention takedowns from Borderlands 3. You can also include that with the raid bosses, because at the end they do kind of include a raid boss in takedowns, which I didn't really think about it until just now. So I guess that sits things. Yeah, if you have takedowns in Borderlands 4, that would be awesome. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with the 5 things that I stated that needs to be in Borderlands 4 at launch? Or do you think there's something else that you need? Or do you think I'm crazy? Or whatever. Let me know down in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.